Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, and today I want to go over the chart of Anthony Bourdain, who died a few years ago by supposed suicide, which you can tell by the way I said that I question that, but we'll get into it. Anyway, he was loved by a lot of people. He was excellent at what he did. Great TV character, excellent writer. Um, I've never tasted his food, but I'm sure it was excellent. And he had a very open-minded. Let me share my screen. Um, way of dealing with foreign cultures, which was excellent, very refreshing. Right? He had a son in Cancer in the 12th house, or in the 12th house cusp, let's say. Um, conjunct the 12th house cusp. Now, 12th house obviously deals with foreign things, exotic things, isolation, creativity, alter egos, film, photography, cinema, movies, fantasy, all things like that. So it is very fitting for somebody like Anthony Bourdain, celebrity chef, going into foreign lands, tasting exotic foods, and just being an all-around traveler, adventure, and cancer son. So like, he did have that very caring, motherly, nurturing vibe to him. Leo ascendant, so also very powerful. Sun is his ascendant lord, so like, the energy is like right into the 12th house. So there's a spiritual vibe to it as well. I don't know how spiritually he was, but definitely very open-minded. And one of the things that I really appreciated about Anthony Bourdain is that he would go to foreign lands where nobody else would go to, like Libya, Iran, and all these exotic places, and try their food. And he was very open-minded, and he did not judge their culture from a very like sort of rigid American sort of cultural thing, which is excellent. And I relate this to his very mature Uranus here, because if you look at synodic cycles, um, uh, new planets are on, especially with the outer planets. Moon is different because it moves much faster. So if you look at the moon independently, and also Venus and Mercury look at a little bit differently because they're inside the Earth's orbit around the sun. But all the other planets, when they're on this side of the sun, the left side, so they're evening stars. They're up in the sky after the sun sets. These are older planets because the sun is moving this way, so it's going to eat up Uranus, and then Uranus will be new after it moves around. So all to say that this is an older Uranus. It's a mature Uranus, and I relate that to his open-mindedness, because Uranus has to do with awareness, especially considering things of very big importance. So like, it's the planet of awakening and enlightenment. So the point being that if he went to China, and how everyone's like, oh, Chinese are so bad with their what they eat, they eat dogs and cats and whales and dolphins. It's so awful. And not that I think that's okay or a good thing, and I don't eat any of those things, mind you. And I find it detestable. It's that a lot of Americans are just complete hypocrites, like completely operating out of a very small-minded, sleep, non-evolved Uranus cultural conditioning, because Americans are crazy about eating pigs, you know, pig, like bacon rolled pork sausage on a pork chop, it's just like pig, bacon, bacon, pork fat, fried, everything, and it's insane because pigs are more intelligent and evolved than dogs. So that's hypocrisy. It's just plain hypocrisy. Just use your brain. It's illogic. It doesn't make any sense. they're smarter than dogs. They're omnivores. Pigs will eat anything you put in front of them. They're not even herbivores. They're not like cows or sheep or goats, because they will eat everything. So they're in a completely different category, similar to dogs. Dogs are hunters. Pigs are not really hunters, but they are opportunistic eaters. They're scavengers. They'll even eat humans. So the point being, and pigs are very intelligent. They're in fact smarter than dogs and smarter than cats. And so, if you're making this argument that, oh, well, dogs and cats and whales and dolphins are too smart to eat, well, then, give up eating pigs is all I gotta say. And I have no sympathy. Like, really, it's very offensive when you're not operating, excuse me, from a cultural conditioning viewpoint, like American culture, we eat pigs and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you do something different, you're wrong. Like, that's just ignorant and stupid. And he was aware enough, he had involved enough awareness to recognize that if he was going into a foreign culture where they had different cultural conditioning, to not bring his American cultural conditioning bias. He might not like the food that he ate, and he didn't always like the food that he was given in these very exotic places, but he was open to trying it and not judging it from this very small-minded, ignorant place where a lot of Americans come from. Like, you just see its prevalence, like, those Chinese are wrong because they don't have American cultural conditioning. They don't need, whatever. You get it. I don't want to, there's so much to cover. I don't want to keep going on about this. But you get it. So that was really nice about Anthony Bourdain and very refreshing. His moon is in Capricorn, and it's in the 6th house. And it's not good here because moon is in detriment in Capricorn. And in the 6th house, it's the house of conflict, the house of competition and service to others, mundane daily stuff, which cooking is a part of. So cooking you often see in the 6th house. So that is, that definitely ties into his career as a chef. He also practiced martial arts, which is a 6th house thing. And, because of competition. And so his mind, we can tell, is troubled. I left Lilith in here because, I don't know, it was unique, in its proximity to the moon by 2 degrees. Usually it signifies female sexuality, but this could, for a man, could indicate maybe a certain kind of attraction towards more sexual women. But I don't know per se exactly, and I just left it in here out of curiosity. Maybe some of you will know better. I don't know. Anyway, this moon is difficult. On the one hand, you could say that now with debilitated planets or planets in detriment, they can go one of 2 ways. Now, on the first thing to say about it is that it is a weak moon, a weekend moon. And it can indicate that in competition, he will not play by the rules, that he will fight to win. He will fight dirty style. He will do whatever it takes to win, which is a possibility. It could also indicate that because 6th house is the house of service to others, that people who are weak or in detriment or in need, that he wants to help and serve, right? And we did get a feeling of that. I don't know if outright I don't know any example. Like, I didn't read about it because I did read it with Wikipedia, but I'm not like an expert on Anthony Bourdain. But I do think that he had this heartfelt sort of desire to help those who are needy. You just sort of feel that about him. I mean, he was a Cancer sun, and when he went to other cultures, he was very respectful. And you could tell that he really sort of, because planets in detriment can attract that. You'll see that often. Like, especially the moon. The moon is a very caring planet. And and if it's in detriment, then it sort of attracts that weakness to it. So people who are in need will definitely be drawn to him. So I imagine that he would definitely have a soft spot for hungry people, homeless, poor, downtrodden, that sort of thing. Because that is the plus side of planets in detriment or debility. That ability to relate to those in need, the weakened people. Yeah. Moon in Capricorn also is very mature and responsible. They just have this incredible inability to express themselves, their heart. Their heart really is kind of stifled. Like they just, if they care about someone, they have a hard time expressing that. If they're happy, they have a hard time expressing that. They just have a hard time expressing their moon, their heart. It doesn't come out easily. It just really stays inside and festers, and that's problematic. He does have a yod to his moon from Venus, and this Jupiter conjunct Pluto, which is very intense. And Yod, they call the finger of God, where it's pointing to is a point of sort of like destiny or fate. So here, moon in Capricorn in the 6th house relates to cooking, service to others, caring for others, nurturing others, things of that nature. And he was chef, and he quickly made it to head chef. I just want to point out, this is a very complicated chart, and there's a lot to it, and it's going to take me a little while just to break it down. So just bear with me. It's not so simple. Like other people just have like this conglomeration of planets in 1 or 2 houses, and it's just like, this is what they're all about. They're very simple, huge fame and fortune, and that's it. Anthony Bourdain is a lot more complicated. So, and you can just tell by the planets that are spread out all over the place, and the trines and the squares and the inconjuncts. Yeah. His moon is disposited by Saturn, which is in the 4th house in Scorpio. There is a sextile to the moon, which is good because now Saturn receives the moon. This is Saturn's house. So Saturn is saying, okay, you're welcome here, moon. I give you my blessings. I'm the landlord, and you're good to go. I'm in good terms with you because of the sextile. However, not so good because Saturn is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is the sign of moon's debility. So there is some not such great tension between Saturn and Scorpio and moon in Capricorn, although, like I said, there's some good qualities here. Saturn in Scorpio in the 4th house. Well, 4th house has to do with his childhood upbringing and his overall happiness, and also things like real estate or brick and mortar, which would relate to a restaurant. A restaurant is 4th house, a 4th house matter, and he had a restaurant. And Saturn in the 4th house could also, that would relate to, he went to culinary school, then he quickly became like head chef, right? I don't know how long, but he became head chef. And so Saturn is authority, rule, leadership. So that fits, head chef in a restaurant. And he also had his own restaurant. I think he was like a head chef or executive chef in various restaurants, and then he developed his own restaurant. Excuse me. I don't think there's anything much about his childhood, at least that I read, that I could relate to this. He had a fine childhood. It's just that he, for whatever reason, which we can see in his chart, he did turn to drugs and alcohol and smoking cigarettes. Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Pisces in the 8th house. So that's a big indication, one indication of that sort of behavior. Also sex and sexuality, I think was big on his list. I can only guess because I didn't read about that, but Mars is a very physical planet, has very strong desires, and it's a planet of initiation. So it's not passive. It's going to go for for its goal, which is indicated by the sign and house's placement is in. And this is 8th house and Pisces, so a lot of water. So things relating to drugs and alcohol and sex, very much. He's going to go for it with a, you know, he's not going to wait to be handed. It's like Mars really goes for it. It's initiating. It's full steam ahead with Mars. And it's also the 9th house lord. So 9th house lord in the 8th house is sort of loss of 9th house. So 9th house deals with religion, philosophy, long distance travels. So in this case, what it means is that oftentimes the person's belief system is more occult oriented. They believe in the mysteries and the secrets of life, things like astrology and Satanism. And, well, forgive me, I know he was a Satanist, that's why I said that, but it doesn't have to be Satanism, because Satanism is on the very low end of the occult awareness, because I have my 8th house and Venus in my sun and Venus in the 8th house. I'm not a Satanist. I'm strongly against Satanism because I just understand it. I know what it is, and it's not at all what I'm interested in. However, Hollywood and celebrity life is full of Satanism. There are a lot of them, not all of them, but so many of them are like pedophile Satanists, because they just get eaten up by the materialism, the wealth, the fame, the luxury. And that's all Satanism really is. It's worship of the ego. If you want to break it down, if you want to know what Satanism is, it's ego worship versus the soul, because the soul and the ego are really moving in 2 different directions. You know, they're kind of at odds. And if you worship the ego, which is luxury, power, control, fame, wealth, you know, all the things that come with celebrity life, then you're completely at odds with your soul, and you're going to tarnish your soul. You're going to gain more and more negative karma, and you're going to, you know, go down the road of Satan. That's what Satanism is. And so that's why Hollywood, celebrity life, CEOs, executives, politicians, they all fall into that, the materialism of Satanism, and ego worship. And that's why you hear things like, we are gods, you know, like Klaus Schwab and Yuval Harari, Noah Yuval Harari. We are gods. There is no God. We are gods. That's Satan. That's what Satan is. They're basically saying we're Satanists. And so I know he did get caught up in that. The whole pedophilia, Satanism. Is his girlfriend, Asia Argento, is a Satanist, pedophilia. Which, by the way, and this does tie into him and his death. The whole Me Too movement, which Asia Argento is, and if you don't know who she is, she's an actress, and she was his girlfriend. That was a cover-up for Hollywood pedophilia, right? Because they want to, it's like a smoke screen. If they want to detract attention away from pedophilia, they say, oh, the dark side of Hollywood is that people like Harvey Weinstein are taking advantage, abusing, you know, sexually assaulting, you know, Hollywood women, which may or may not be true. Probably is in a lot of cases, but that's not the dark evil part of Hollywood. The dark evil part of Hollywood is child trafficking, child pornography, child rape, child murder, satanic ritual abuse, and the list goes on. Adrenochrome, torture, the most evil stuff you could possibly imagine. And I'm not exaggerating, and not even getting close to the, you know, the bulk of it. So, but that's, you just get, you know, just to give you an idea of that. But yeah, all that stuff is very 8th house. So unfortunately, he did get sucked up into that. And I think he did try and get out later, which was why he was murdered. And I'll tie that in later. This Mars is square Mercury, and it's in conjunct his ascendant. So there's some bad stuff here. And that definitely points to drugs, alcohol, sexuality, and you know, the darker side of this strong watery, you know, it's ruling Scorpio. It's in the 8th house, in a water sign, which is Pisces. So really deep, deep dive down the rabbit hole of something very dark and negative. Mars square Mercury could be just, that these habits are really wreaking havoc on his mind, on his intellect, on his well-being, his nervous system. His moon is already under tremendous pressure from this, first of all, being in detriment in Capricorn, in the 6th house of conflict and competition. There's so much to break down here. Venus, which is his joy and his, for a man, it's woman, it's sexuality because of the relationship with women. It's not directly sexuality, but people often associate it with sexuality because, especially for men, because of its joy and its women. So that leads to sexuality, indulgence, wealth, all creativity. These are all at odds with his moon, which is his emotional satisfaction. And so is Pluto and Jupiter, which is his his faith in life, and this Pluto is the power and control. So he's very unhappy. That's what I'm trying to get at. And Mars ruling the 4th house cusp also relates to his happiness, his childhood happiness. It's the significator of that. It's in the 8th house. So much water here, and square with Mercury, and the inconjunct with the ascendant, which is what the 8th house is. It means it's inconjunct to the ascendant. So he really is troubled. And then the Mars makes a semi-square to Moon. This Moon and Lilith. So, I mean, you can see all the red lines coming from Mars. There's a square, a little bit of a wider square to Neptune. And what's not a square? This is a square. A little bit of white square to the nodes. And that's, I guess, a square and a half. Can't really see here with this. Anyway, difficult aspect. Yeah, widely square the nodes, not really, but so a lot going on with this Mars in the 8th house of death, sex, crisis, occult, things of that nature. The inconjunct to the ascendant, again, that's because of the degree, that's really intense, not very good for his life. Let's see. There's so much bad stuff in this chart and some really good stuff. Pluto conjunct Jupiter is both good and bad, because Jupiter does gain a lot of strength in the 1st house. It shows that he was like a very big character. First of all, it expands his 1st house, making him very, likable, charismatic, jovial. It just make him very Jupiterian, very big, teacher oriented. So he had this teacherly quality because Jupiter's the teacher. He could be on stage, and because Leo also, like, it's very big, powerful persona that, people instantly felt. Like, if you saw him on TV, he really, really fit on TV, and he was immediately likable, one of the most likable characters on TV. And Pluto also, because Pluto is so powerful, it's deep, psychological, powerful, controlling, brings depth, but it's transforming him and transforming his belief system over time through pain and crisis. So he was not born religious, but whatever his belief is in life, whatever his faith is, his optimism is, his sense of, meaning towards life, it's going through deep transformations. And so periodically, it could, it goes through like this death cycle where he just loses faith, because Pluto does that. And then there's a rebirth. But he could become very depressed for periods of time because of Pluto conjunct Jupiter, and Pluto in conjunct the moon as well. And because he's not, his moon, which is his mind, is not relating well to this Pluto conjunct Jupiter. So there's no real understanding of this process going on. He's not really in touch with all the things that are happening to him. He's not making sense of it. It's just happening. He gets depressed, he gets negative, he turns to drugs and alcohol and sex, and he probably was suicidal many times in his life. Like I said, I don't think that was the thing that got him. Uranus is also opposite the moon out of sign by 2 degrees, but it's still quite a strong opposition. Not good for the moon. Does create a lot of independence, independent mindedness, argumentation, just ability to be, and he was very critical of a lot of his fellow celebrity chefs. That's Uranus. Uranus was just not the criticism, although that's 6th house moon, can be very critical, but the ability to stand out, the desire to stand out, to be independent, to not be one of the crowd. I mean, there's so much pressure on his moon, not in a good way. So many negative influences on his moon. Even this sextile of Saturn is from in Scorpio, so very, very difficult. Where he did have a real strong quality is this South Node conjunct Mercury in the 11th house. Now, South Node, Mercury is very strong in Gemini because it rules Gemini. And South Node conjunct Mercury means that from a young age, from his early life, he was very skilled in mercurial things. Now, his 3rd book, he knew he was a writer. He's a writer. Mercury is ruling 2nd house of speaking and food, because it's the mouth. So what comes out of the mouth, what goes into the mouth. It's South Node and career success, hopes, wishes, dreams, groups, communities, things of that nature. It's South Node. It's talent, it's skill. He has it from birth. He knows how to write. He knows how to speak. Right. So he's writing books, and then his 3rd book becomes a bestseller. And he's already into drugs and alcohol and probably lots of sex. I say probably, again, because I didn't read it. I don't know, but I'm guessing. But anyway, and it's a huge success. And so he's like celebrity chef, or he's executive chef. He's now he has a best-selling cookbook, and then he does more writing, and then he goes on TV and whatnot. And Venus, which is also being, taking strength from Mercury, because Mercury is so strong in Gemini, is ruling the 3rd house. Again, writing. So creative writing, again, and speaking are very prominent. Mercury and Jupiter, not Jupiter, Mercury and Venus are tied together now, 2nd and 3rd house in the 11th house, influencing his sun, because it's still Venus is conjunct the sun, but out of sign. And that's good that it's out of sign, because that's separating his sun from Venus, which Venus, because sun is debilitated in Libra, which Venus rules. So sun conjunct Venus is better if there's some degree of separation, either by actual degrees or by sign, because Venus can suck the vitality out of sun, right? Make it lose its direction. Too much indulgence, too much joy, too much women, too much, good things. It makes you lose your direction in life. And Venus is trine Neptune, so Neptune in the 3rd house, 4th house cusp, you could say, even though it's out of sign, still by proximity, it's very close. So, 3rd house matters, expression, skills of the hands, writing, and 4th house, restaurateur, so creativity. Neptune is also excellent for film, photography, movies, TV, anything like that. So excellent creativity ability. because Venus, Neptune, and then Jupiter, Pluto, adding expansion. Jupiter brings a lot of success, and Pluto brings power, depth, dimension, right? Scorpionic quality of transformation through pain and crisis, but upward transformation. So that's right, and it's in his first house, right? So that's very good. That's very prominent. Yeah. There's a trine from Mercury to Chiron. So, but Chiron, I mean, Chiron, unless it's really negatively aspected, see Chiron conjuncted descendant, I do know can attract some not so healthy partnerships. That I do know because I have that. Because Chiron is the wounded reject. Can also be the healer and a teacher, but a lot of times it can mean like attracting people who are wounded, like some unhealthy people as partners, and that's not so good because that negatively reflects upon the person. Your partner can drag you down as well. And I think maybe Asia Argento is probably a lot more wounded than any of us realize. That was his girlfriend, and I do not think she was good. But there is a good connection to his Mercury, so there probably is, in some ways, helped his career, helped his writing, partnership, relationships, things of that nature. So yeah, and there's a good sextile to his ascendant. So Mercury seems quite beneficial to him. His speaking, his writing, his communication, and his Venus. And the 11th house, career success. Venus is ruling 10th house, so 10th house and the 11th house shows very prosperous career. And his second house and 11th house are connected, so finances are quite good. So yeah. But we see so much difficulty in his chart. It's really no wonder. His first bestseller book was Kitchen Confidential, which confidential means secret, and 12th and 8th house deals with secrets, and 4th house is in Scorpio. So you can see the watery influence on his book. He also had another book that was something about secret or hidden or something. You'll see themes like that depending on the person's chart. Sort of like Gordon Ramsay with the strong Scorpio, and he's like Hell's Kitchen and hell this, hell that. So that's the Scorpio influence. But where he's Bourdain's more like secrets and confidential and shush, keep quiet. We're doing secret confidential stuff. Things like that. Let's look at his draconic chart, because I think this explains a lot more. And as always, draconic chart is the North Node chart of the moon. And so it shows like an inner feeling rather than an outer, scene. It's more of a felt thing on the inside of the person that can subtly be expressed, but is shows a person's true colors, their inner nature relating to their moon and North Node of the moon. Because North Node of the moon is always placed at 0 degrees Aries, and the chart is cast based on that. So we get the strong 3rd house connection, writing, skills of the hands. So important for chefs because of knife abilities as well. Chefs work with their hands, but writing, communication, that sort of thing. And we see this very strong Venus here. Venus in Libra and domicile. So creativity is really enhanced in the 3rd house. But the thing is that Venus is conjunct the sun. And so Venus sucks the energy out of the sun because the sun is debilitated in Libra. Venus rules Libra. And so now we have sun debilitated in Libra, conjunct Venus in Libra. So Venus is obviously much stronger here while the sun is weak here. So the sun is losing vitality to Venus. So creativity is heightened, but so is all Venusian things. And for a man, that means women are gaining power over him. and indulgence, enjoying himself too much. You know, too much fun. Too much fun is not good because you can just have too much fun and waste your life having fun. That's what Venus can represent. Luxury, money, good things, women, sexuality, drugs and alcohol and overindulgence and all the good things. And so he's losing vitality. And then Neptune also, delusion, drugs, alcohol. So here you can see that he just really was overindulgent. And he wasted a lot of his life force in just being completely indulgent. Heightened creativity, you know, like the sort of like a rock star or an artist who just extremely creative and waste their life to drugs and alcohol. I mean, that's very much Anthony Bourdain's chart and destiny and fate. It's much more clear with in his draconic chart, but we see a lot of that in his natal chart too. It's just you get an even more bigger dose here in this draconic. Heightened excellent creativity. Uranus is in Scorpio, so this would be the fourth house relating to again his childhood, but also his restaurants. So Uranus in the fourth house in Scorpio definitely shows, which I don't know what this is, but some sort of childhood trauma, some sort of shocking childhood events, but also a lot of dynamic influence and independent, you know, qualities to his restaurants. He would bring some like just incredible uniqueness, originality, independence to his restaurants, whether he was chef, head chef, or his own restaurants. That Uranus is very, you know, it has two sides, you know, the trauma from childhood and also the unique independent quality, awake, aware. And here Jupiter is very strong in Sagittarius, ascendant is in Sagittarius, so fifth house matters. For fame, for creativity, again, excellent. Pluto is going to bring power and depth and dimension, and intensity, sexuality. So all of these things are bringing, you know, enhancing his you know, his rise to fame, his creativity, his ability to be, you know, this man on TV who's, you know, incredibly successful and powerful, dynamic. Neptune in the seventh house, also not so good for relationships because it means that he's going to be attracted to somebody who is also the creative type. Drugs, alcohol, lying, deceit. Could be good for, you know, film, photography, TV, things like that. Because seventh house is masses, so he can relate to masses in that way. But like, I think his girlfriend, Asia Argento, was not a good influence on him. Right, and here we can see the inconjunct to his sun. So again, you know, not healthy for his own vitality. She was a pedophile. She's been accused of that. She was a part of the Hollywood satanic agenda. And I think he was too, but I think he wanted to get out of it. Let me just run through this and we'll get into that. Saturn conjunct Mars, wide conjunction, but still in the same house. Not a good conjunction because it's super intense and could bring in issues of cruelty and violence because these are both malefics. So in the eighth house of death, cruelty and violence, not healthy, not good. And in conjunct, not in conjunct, a square and a half. The name of this, it's a derivative of square, so it's a square and a half. So of the sun Neptune. So violence, again, towards this vitality, cruelty. Mars is strengthened by Saturn, but Saturn is weakened by Mars. So too much Mars and a weak Saturn So Saturn is the restriction, it's the restraint, and Mars is the aggression and the violence. Eighth house is, you know, when it's not healthy, it's a very dangerous, malefic house. What else? This Mars is exactly over his sun, and Mars is his happiness because it's ruling the fourth house. His happiness in his childhood. It's similar to the moon because of it's ruling the fourth house. And here it's debilitated in Cancer, so it's a weak Mars. It's a Mars that has no self-respect, probably a lot of self-loathing, no dignity, and it's overhead his sun. So there's probably a lot of self-loathing, self-hate, self-hatred going on internally with him. Mars conjunct the sun, especially if it's Cazimi, can be quite good. Shows a self-starter because sun is exalted in Mars, a sign of Aries. So a lot of initiative, and probably this dual dichotomy, this polar opposite between somebody who does have a lot of faith in themselves and he's going to go for it. He's going to write these books. He's going to have, he's going to make his way to head chef and be a star and a celebrity, and thinks he can do it all because this Mars is in some ways beneficial to the sun because it's that bringing that Aries energy, but at the same time bringing debilitated Mars, so a lot of self-loathing, and so that is difficult. That is difficult, and it is kind of square the nodes, the draconic nodes, by 3 degrees, but well, it's right in between the Venus. So that's interesting. Venus, Sun, square the nodes, and Mars. Square the nodes is a tense aspect and does show some sort of destiny or fate. Sun in aspect to the nodes can show fame. So, and it is his ascendant lord, so there's probably a lot to that. But and then Moon is right in the 10th house, exalted in Taurus. So he probably did get a lot of satisfaction and mental stability and groundedness from his recognitions and success and fame. And, he probably lived off that for a while, because his moon is not happy. But I think he was very depressed at times and struggled a lot with terrible, depression and pain and unhappiness. But I'm going to share my screen because I want to share something which I think is significant. Forgive me, this is not what I want to share. This is the silent children. Now, this delves into a bit more conspiracy theory, but Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park, we're working on a documentary about pedophilia in Hollywood because they were tied into it. They were both celebrities. And you don't here's how I know that it's real, because child trafficking and child pornography and pedophilia is a real thing, but it's not talked about. So it's silent. Where's it happening? It costs a lot of money. It's happening among rich and powerful people. We know it has to be happening because it is happening. And so why is there a cover-up? Well, okay. So when somebody makes a documentary about it and then they die by suicide, just put your brain, put the two sides of your brain together and rub them together for a little while, because I think you'll start to see the connection. He was involved in this, and his girlfriend, Asia Argento, was also involved. And she was part of the Me Too movement. And the Me Too movement was just a cover-up. It was a psyop to cover up for the real plague, which is infesting Hollywood and politics and executive corporate world, is pedophilia. These are rich and powerful people, Satanists, who get off by raping children, child trafficking, torturing children, drinking their blood, adrenochrome, child satanic abuse, all of it. We know it happens. Epstein, the sex cults, all this and that. Like, I'm not gonna do a deep dive into it. I am tying it in. He was involved because she was involved. The Me Too movement, again, is a farce, is a psyop. Oh, Asia Argento sexually assaulted a 17-year-old. So she is a pedophile, who she groomed since he was like 8 years old. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just one she was busted for. They're all pedophiles, but she wants to be like, oh, Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted. Maybe he did. I'm not saying he did or didn't. He probably did, but because they're all monsters. But I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's not the real issue. The real issue is that they are raping and trafficking and drinking the blood of tortured children. We know that they are because it's happening, and poor people are not doing it because they cannot afford it. And why is Joe Biden keeping the borders open? I mean, there's so many, like, you just have to you just have to think about it. And there's a whole documentary, and Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell and Anthony Bourdain, they were all involved in exposing it because Anthony Bourdain was involved in the satanic side of things. But I think his conscience got the best of him, and he wanted to expose it. And because he was on the inside, they had to kill him because he knew too much. Like, he just knew. He knew all the people involved. Anyone who's on the inside who decides to break from rank and expose it dies. I think Robin Williams was another one who was on the inside, who knew all about it and wanted to expose it because it was just too much for him. I think he was a good guy, and then they killed him. And this keeps happening again and again and again. If you investigate, it really happens. Corey Feldman, Rose McGowan, these are all part of psyops. Oh, I was, it probably does happen, but it's not the real story. Why are they talking about like them being sexually assaulted when the real thing is that there's just rampant pedophilia in Hollywood, in politics, in the corporate executive world? She's been accused. Asia Argento has been accused of being all those evil things. She's his ex-girlfriend. I don't even understand this sentence, but there's a video by Johnny Supertramp claiming proof that Asia Argento staged Anthony Bourdain's suicide hoax as art. I don't know. I don't understand that. But anyway, this is from a website, Call Me Stormy. This is a real documentary that never got released because it's too, exposes the pedophilia too much, the silent children. Anyway, this is real stuff that's really happening, and it's very sad. And that's why I believe he was killed. Even though he did have major, they blamed it on his depression, but I don't think he killed himself. I really don't. I just wanted to share that. It is possible that he killed himself, but I just feel like he was killed because the eighth Lord, which is Jupiter, is on his ascendant. So now death's coming to him. Now he's not going into the eighth house. The eighth house is coming to him. And it's got some dangerous elements in it. And it's conjunct Pluto. And he just, his luck had run out. His karma had run out on him. So poor guy. It is sad. I mean, it really is because Anthony Bourdain was just awesome. Like, he was a treasure to the world. He was just so intelligent, so awake and aware. And it's too bad he got involved in some dark, shady stuff that he probably shouldn't have been involved in, but he did. And then when he wanted to get out, wanted to do the right thing, it was too late. Like, they already had him. He knew too much. He couldn't expose them, So it was just like, time's up, buddy. You gotta go. We'll suicide you. We'll Hillary Clinton you. So that's too bad. But I appreciate Anthony Bourdain, and I've seen him on TV and cooking shows and all that, and he was great. He was often like the best part of the show. So anyway, you know, that's life, and we move on. And he had a super interesting chart to read, full of difficulty. I mean, I do not envy Anthony Bourdain. I would not want to be him. He was probably super pained inside, despite all his fame and talents and skills. And he had both those sides. Super talented, super skilled. People loved him. He could write, he could act, he could cook. He had this, a lot of faith in his own ability, along with a lot of self-hatred and loathing and self-destructive tendencies. So anyway, that's it for now. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Hit the like button, get your friends to subscribe, share it. Book a reading with me, macroastrology.com. My website was down, but it's up and running now. I fixed all any problems that are on the website. It was missing a security authentication. That's all fixed. You can email me at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And if you want a reading but you can't afford it, just let me know. I can do a sliding scale. And if you asked me for a reading before but I wasn't available, I am now. So just ask again. I'm not going to reach out to you because I'm not going to solicit readings because that's a little weird. But just reach out again. And leave a comment. If you want me to do a different celebrity reading, let me know. And yeah, all right. That's it for now. I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.